Now moving on to the top focus story here on NewsX Eurozone. US officials are meeting with Ukrainian negotiators in Florida this week to push forward a proposed peace framework aimed at ending Russia's war in Ukraine. Secretary of State Marco Rubio, Special Envoy Steve Witkoff, and Jared Kushner, the son-in-law to President Donald Trump, are holding talks with the Ukrainian delegation, which includes key military and government figures. This comes amid a turbulent week for Ukraine, with President Zelenskyy announcing the resignation of his chief of staff, Andriy Yermak, following a corruption scandal. Now, the discussions focus on revising Trump's proposed 28-point peace plan, which had faced criticism for being overly favorable to Russia. Negotiations are set to continue, with talks in Moscow expected later this week. Ben Aries, who is a senior journalist, joins us now live from Berlin. Thank you, Ben, for joining us here at NewsX World. How do you see the talks that are likely to be held? Are they going to achieve the desired outcome?
These are very important talks. What's going on is the Trump administration released a 28-point plan list of proposals in order to bring the war to an end. And then in the following week, there's been a huge amount of discussion. The EU have been insisting on having their input. The Bankova, the Ukrainians, have been insisting on having their input. And the original list has been cut to pieces. And the EU in particular are making some maximalist demands in the proposals that the Kremlin simply will not accept. And the Kremlin's actually been explicit about that. And Lavrov and Ushakov, the two key players in the Kremlin who've been negotiating this, have both come out in the press and said, look, most of those points in the EU and Ukrainian plan are unacceptable. They include things like NATO troops in Ukraine, which the Kremlin is a red line. They've included insisting that Ukraine can join NATO, and they've also insisted that they will not give back any territory. Whereas in the Trump plan, most of those things were conceded. So what's going on today is that there are these at least 6 versions of the proposals, and that the Ukrainian team are in the States trying to rescue the situation, because on Friday, the States said that they're classifying any further changes to the plan and are not going to share it with Europe. Moreover, Witkoff, the special envoy from Trump, is going to Moscow next week to meet with Putin. And what the Ukrainian team are afraid of is that Trump is going to do a deal behind their back, without their inclusion, with Russia, and then just deliver it to Bankova, to the Ukrainians as a fait accompli, and tell them, look, either you accept this deal or we cut you off completely. We won't even sell you arms. And the whole can will then have to be carried by Europe, and Europe is struggling on all fronts. It hasn't got the money, it hasn't got the weapons, it hasn't got the stockpiles to continue to support Ukraine by itself. So, as I say, this is a last-ditch attempt by the Ukrainian team in order to get some sort of acceptable compromises out of the States before they sell their plan to Putin next week.
All right. Well, do stay on with us, Ben. We have some more news to give our viewers now. Drone debris has struck 2 towns in Russia's southern Krasnodar region. Officials say that falling fragments shattered windows in 7 apartments inside a high-rise building in Slavyansk on Kuban. The blast also damaged the structure but caused no injuries. In the coastal city of Anapa, debris from another drone hit a private house and tore through its roof. No casualties were reported there either. Emergency crews are on the ground in both locations tonight, assessing the damage and securing the areas. All right, now I want to bring back Ben here in the discussion. Ben, of course, the strikings continue. There's also damage that's recurring from the debris of previous attacks. Given that both parties are in discussions with the United States, how soon can we see an end of these kind of shellings? Zelenskyy has also already signaled some bit of acceptance to the peace plan. but is it also likely that Putin will come to the affirmative?
Well, you're right to put it in the context, these attacks in the context of the negotiations. I mean, what we're seeing is Putin is going an all-out push to try and get the Ukrainians to capitulate. And so we've seen since the summer, it started, I think, in May, when Russia started unleashing massive missile barrages against Ukrainian targets. I mean, he's been hitting those parts of the power sector that he didn't hit before to great effect. I mean, Ukraine has been plunged into darkness. But the Ukrainians are fighting back, and what they're trying to do is, with their new long-range and more powerful drones, is take the fight into Russia and to inflict pain and suffering on the Russian people, who have been largely shielded from the war so far. And it's been very effective. And so, unfortunately, every day we're getting reports of like hundreds of drones attacking on both sides, but into Russia. Krasnodar, Anapa, the places you're mentioning, these are some of the very nicest parts of Russia. They're green, subtropical. People like living there, and it's not, war is not something they're used to experiencing. And now they're being killed in their apartments at night by Ukrainian drones. And the idea is, on Bankova's side, is to turn up the pressure on Putin, and as you suggest, to try and force him to come to the table. But the Russians are hitting back even harder, and I think Putin's intention is just to keep fighting. He would like to do a deal, but this is pressure in order to get to put pressure on the Ukrainians to limit the concessions that Russia has to give away in order to get the deal across the line.
All right, what kind of retaliation can we expect now from Putin if this doesn't stop? I mean,
it's a quid pro quo. I mean, if the Ukrainians strike, urban centers in Russia, then the Russians are going to strike back. The big difference is in the power of their weapons. As I said, Ukraine has powerful long-distance drones, but Russia has missiles, and it's now producing more missiles than it needs. It's stockpiling them. And these things are 10 times more powerful than the drones that Ukraine is firing. And so just last night, there was a huge attack on Kiev. And again, residential buildings were hit. Several people died, and 4 children were injured. And this has now become a daily occurrence. And it was that Ukraine had sufficient air defense in order to keep a place like Kiev safe. But they've depleted their air defense ammo, which the states are supposed to supply and is not. And at the same time, the intensity, the number of drones and missiles are just overwhelming what defenses it has left. And so it's a horrible situation. It's become very, very brutal. But as I say, both sides are maximum pressure in the context of the peace talks. And we remain positive. This is the best chance we've seen since April 2022 of actually getting to a deal and finishing this war.
All right, for now, thanks, Ben, for joining us and helping us understand that with your perspective. And viewers, let's move on now to news